Sabah al-Khair, good morning dear listeners. You're listening to Radio 3CR on 855 AM and Palestine Remembered with Robert Martin, Nasser Mashni and Yusuf Ahmed al-Rimawi.
Palestine Remembered is Australia's only English-language radio program that is totally dedicated to Palestine. We'd like to welcome those listening on 855 and those that will join us on podcast at 3cr.org.au.
Thanks for joining us. Stay with us and enjoy the episode.
Orly Noy, an Israeli activist, translator and journalist, a member of several human rights organizations in Israel like B'Tselem, and a member of Arab Jewish political party Balad. He's currently in Australia in a tour organized by the Australian Jewish Democratic Society, speaking about a Mizrahi response to Zionism. And Mizrahi is a Hebrew word that means Jews of Middle Eastern origin. So I had the pleasure of meeting Orly last Wednesday. We spoke about her identity as a Persian Jew. We spoke about the Mizrahi response to Zionism and how Zionism hijacks the Jewish values, especially in defending the violations of human rights in Palestine. But also we spoke about her career as translator and the value of translating literature from and to Persian. So stay with us, and this is our interview with Orly Noy. Orly, thank you for being with us this morning.
Thank you very much for having me, Yusuf.
You introduce yourself as a Mizrahi. So what's the difference between Mizrahi and the Sephardim?
The Sephardi was the term that the establishment used to separate the Ashkenazim, meaning the European-oriented Jews, the Jews from European origin, from the Jews that came from non-European communities, i.e. Middle Eastern and Arab and Muslim countries. Only they didn't want to identify them as such, so they used the term Sfaradi, which comes from Sfarad, which is Spain, basically going back to the Andalus, exactly, culture. Only the current non-European, non-Ashkenazi communities, Jewish communities in Israel are not from that origin. They come from Arab and Muslim countries and should be. I mean, Israel is trying its best to scare people off of that identity, but we do come from the Middle East, and therefore we are Middle Easterns. And the term Mizrahi is a political term to clarify the location, the geopolitical location of our communities and actually of the state of Israel itself.
So, Orly, I know that you have an Iranian or Persian background. Were you born in Iran or were you born in Israel? And how old were you, if you were not born in Israel, when you migrated to Palestine?
I was born and raised in Iran, in Tehran, and I was 9 years old when we immigrated to Israel at the very beginning of the Islamic Revolution in 1979.
What's the most thing that you missed after going to Israel as a child?
My grandparents, who at the time were still behind in Iran. I missed walking in the street and hearing Farsi. I missed the sense of belonging. I mean, it was very clear to me very immediately that it's not just about not speaking the local language, not speaking Hebrew. There was something else that made me feel an outsider, made me feel not belonging. I acquired Hebrew very, very quickly, and I was good at it, and very quickly, because as a child, it's a matter of surviving. You need to learn but it wasn't just about that. And it took me a lot of years to be able to define what it is exactly that makes me still feel an outsider in political terms. And this is, in fact, how I became a political Mizrahi activist.
So I also want to ask you about Iran before your family migrated. Tell me about the society. Tell me about the Jewish-Muslim coexistence. Tell me about the relation with the mainstream Persian or Iranian population.
So I grew up in a middle-class Jewish family.
What city?
Tehran, the capital. My parents are both from Isfahan, which makes me an Isfahani, although I was born and raised in Tehran itself. I went to a Jewish school, but then a lot of my classmates were Muslims and Baha'is and Armenians, and we lived in a very much mixed family, and so it was a very, very heterogeneous society. I mean, I grew up really with friends from at least 6 or 7 different ethnicities and religions. The relations with the Muslim surrounding were extreme. I mean, it was amazing. I remember that every year at the end of the holiday of Passover, for 7 days we don't eat bread. And the first ones to bring us the first bread at the end of Pesach, at the end of Passover, were our Muslim neighbors. That was the gesture that here, after 7 days, we can break bread together again. And so it was a very, very good and close and friendly. It's not just a cliche. We really lived as brothers in Iran, and there was no separation.
Well, the bird told me that your mother carried some books with her.
Yes.
From Iran to Israel. Do you remember? Do you know any of these books? And tell me about this. Tell me about the book.
So we immigrated in a very hasty way. It was like just throwing some stuff into a suitcase and hop on the first plane out, more or less. But my mother did carry some books that were very precious to her. One of them turned out to be the first book that I translated from Farsi into Hebrew. It's called My Dear Uncle Napoleon. It actually was translated to English as well, and it's a very, very popular.
Is it a novel or?
It is a novel. It's a it's a social critique, but it's a satire, and it's incredibly smart and funny.
What is it called in Persian?
Doijan Napoleon.
Yes. I'd like to hear this. I'll let you drink your coffee. It's going cold. And now I want to ask you about the first memories of arriving to Palestine. When did you discover the Arabs, the Palestinians? Tell me about your first encounter with the locals.
It's when I say it now, it almost sounds unbelievable. But although I grew up in a Jerusalem neighborhood that was not more than 200 meters away from a very big Palestinian neighborhood in East Jerusalem, Essaouiyeh. Yes, I wasn't aware of the Palestinian existence around me until after I joined the army, and of course nobody tells you about it. And that's the thing you do at 18, and you go to the army and you come back and you go to the university, And I think it was only my first year in the university that I started noticing the Palestinians lining up against the wall on my way to Mount Scopus to the university campus, being checked by Israeli policemen every day, every hour of the day, basically, that I went up to the campus. I started noticing the sounds of shooting coming from Isawiye, and started thinking about why is it that there's so much shooting going on in a neighborhood so close to us, and we never hear that in our own neighborhood. And I started meeting Palestinian friends on campus in the university, and so this divide and conquer is so deep that you can actually go throughout your entire life without realizing that something very, very wrong is out, that there is another people living right next to you, and you won't know about it and you won't see them.
Mm-hmm. Now, what about the family and relatives and neighbors narrative of Palestinians? Were they the scary, or were they the invisible, or were they something else?
When there is nothing out of the ordinary happening, no big events, so-called security, even like Intifada or Gaza, then they are just invisible. Yeah. Then nobody cares about what's going on with them. Nobody knows, and nobody wants to know. And when there is something going on, then of course they become the immediate threat, a danger, a terrorist, all the above, of course. Like, there is not a single moment that you can actually talk with clear head about the Palestinian issue, because if it hurts us at the moment, then they are terrorists and they need to be defeated. And if they don't hurt us at the moment, then why should we think about it? Because everything is just fine.
So, Orly, I want to ask you about the Arabic language. I know that you do speak Arabic language. We had a short chat in the car in Arabic, and I want to ask you when and how did you learn it?
Well, first I studied Arabic at the university because I studied Middle Eastern studies, and then it's a must. You need to learn it. Yeah. But then it's just Fusha, and it's just for academic needs, and that wasn't good enough for me. So I went and studied Amiye, spoken Arabic.
So what you studied in university was Fusha?
Yeah, Fusha.
So I'm not going to test you, because that's we'll do that after the show. Go on.
Please don't. No, but then I started, and then I discovered, an entire new world, because I was able to pick up a Palestinian newspaper and read what the Israeli press never tells me, and listen to Arabic radio and hear things that I never heard before, and actually speak with people. And I live in Jerusalem. So for me, I'm surrounded by Arabic. So all of a sudden it was this amazing discovery that I can actually speak with people in their own language. And then I started working for a Palestinian Israeli radio station. And I had a really good exercise of my Arabic. So I've had the incredible pleasure of hosting a daily radio show in South Salam, Voice of Peace, Palestinian Israeli radio station. It was almost 15 years ago. It was quite a while ago.
So that was the peak of Intifada.
Yes, and that was the idea. We tried to present the two societies to one another, each in its own language, but through different lenses, without the hostility and with a lot of curiosity. So I would interview Palestinian politicians and members of the parliament and activists, and I tried my best to do it in Arabic and then translate it into Hebrew. And I think that it was probably the only place that Hebrew-speaking audience could hear straight from the mouth of Palestinians about their own situation and their own identity and their own analysis of the situation. Unfortunately, we really don't have it. We have like specialists for the Arab world that tend to be very biased and very much Zionist, of course, explaining the Palestinians and the Arab world to the Israeli public in a way that is very biased and hostile, basically, to the Palestinian narrative, and that's all the information that the mainstream Israeli Jewish society gets.
So how was that received by your own family? Was there a level of resistance or reluctance, or was there support, or they were indifferent?
No, there was. It was very, very difficult. I mean, it has been until today. Of course, my husband is very much aligned with my political views, but my parents and my, extended family, they find it extremely difficult because they look at me as somebody who crossed the lines. And the lines are so strict in Israel that, if you're not completely with us, i.e. with the Zionist narrative, with the right-wing Zionist narrative, then you can very quickly become the other, like not a traitor, because nobody in my family would call me a traitor, but you
misled.
Exactly, the misled, or you stepped out of the camp. You're an outsider now. So we try very hard to avoid political conversations during Shabbat dinners, and we discuss the weather a lot.
The elephant in the room.
Exactly. But no, there are times, for example, in the summer of 2014, when the war on Gaza was going on, we literally couldn't speak to each other for a long time because it immediately bursted into
heated.
Unbelievably so, and accusations and like using of really harsh words that we all regretted later on. But it's for us, for me, it's not a political exercise, a theoretical exercise. It's very emotional. It's about who we are, who I am, what kind of an environment I'm raising my kids in. These are really like personal, emotional stuff. So it can get heated very easily.
Especially now with social media, they can see what you're doing. They have access to what you say, as opposed to in the old days, maybe.
This is very true, but actually that has played in my favor because all of a sudden my mother can actually see on Facebook the amount of, like, I don't want to use bad words, but the amount of hatred that I
bombarded with.
Yes, and it shocked her really when I showed her and I told her, look, whatever you think of me, just think of what I need to face every day. And all of a sudden she realized that that's not what she wants for her. That of course upset her, and she could for a moment understand that she was for a long time actually a part of it, a part of not attacking me, but like not seeing things, not seeing how violent things can get, and how violent is the treatment to anybody who thinks differently in Israel.
Now, speaking of the non-welcoming statements from members of the Jewish community, today, when we're recording on a Wednesday, there has been an article by a Melbourneian Jewish group referring to you as a deluded Israeli. How does this make you feel? And because the labeling that we see when it comes to Israelis who are against human rights violations of Palestinians is that they have some mental issues. So how do you feel about that?
Yeah, that's even. It was actually even worse because I think that at some point he also called me a self-hating Jew.
Yes.
It's just, I mean, it's despicable, really. I don't get offended by these things anymore because I've heard them all before. But I'm probably a much prouder Jew than the person who wrote this article. Apparently, I refused to have an interview with him some years back, and he was really offended by it, and he's not letting go for some years. But the fact, that a Jewish person in Melbourne can sit in this beautiful city, very calm city, and calling me, an Israeli Jewish person who raises my kids in that conflict area and that war zone, a self-deluded, like he here in Melbourne can tell me. Really, I mean, we have a word for it in Hebrew. It's called chutzpah. I mean, I think it takes quite a bit of chutzpah to be doing that, but it's nothing new. I mean, that's their only way to deal with anybody who confronts the Zionist narrative. Immediately he's called either crazy or self-deluded or self-hating or whatever. That's their only way to deal with the ideological challenges that they face.
You're listening to Radio 3CR on 855 AM, and our guest Orly Noy. So we will listen to some snippets of your speech last Saturday on an event called Melbourne Says No to the Sale of Palestine, and we will be back shortly.
As an Israeli Jew, I must say, this occupation is not Judaism. There is nothing Jewish about the ethnic cleansing being promoted in Palestine. There is nothing Jewish about the daily invasion to Palestinian cities and towns. There is nothing Jewish about invading houses in the middle of the night, dragging out children from their sleep in their beds and arresting them. There is nothing Jewish about the daily demolition of houses, of Palestinian houses all around the West Bank and in East Jerusalem. There is nothing Jewish about the deadly bombing of civilian population in Gaza. There is nothing Jewish about the siege, the brutal, violent siege on Gaza that has been going on for years. This is not Judaism. In fact, it's a daily violation of every basic Jewish value.
You're listening to Radio 3CR on 855 AM, and we are pleased to be joined by Orly Noy. So that was quite a powerful statement that there's nothing Jewish about the violation of Palestinians' rights or human rights in general.
Yeah, I think that one of the most horrible things we've been facing for some years now is Israeli attempt with some assistance by its allies around the world to portray any criticism on the Israeli policies as anti-Semitism. All of a sudden, being a human rights defender is being an anti-Semite. All of a sudden, being anti-occupation is being anti-Semite. And really, somebody must say, we, the Jews, have the obligation to stand up and put an end to this madness, because otherwise it means that violation of human rights is Judaism, that occupation is Judaism, and no, we must. It's our job, not the Palestinians. It's our job to stand up and say this is not Judaism. You're hijacking Judaism into something completely horrifying. That's not Judaism.
So, Orly, tell me about your tour in Australia. It's been a week now in Melbourne, and you are preparing to head to Sydney soon. How has been this week so far? And tell me what you felt, the understanding of the Palestinian-Israeli issue among Australians so far.
Well, first of all, it really has been a tremendous privilege and honor to do that tour, and I'm so grateful to the Australian Jewish Democratic Society for inviting me over. It was fascinating to meet with Palestinian members of the Palestinian community here in Melbourne. I find it it's it gives me a lot of hope when I see that the Palestinians are willing to cooperate with Israelis, with Jewish community, and that it really is not about faith, and it's not about race or religion. It's about decency, human decency, and ideas of justice and equality. The article that you mentioned made me. I mean, it's just a shame. It's a shame because I think that the Jewish community in Melbourne, in general, can be a lot more courageous, and I think that it still has some way to go to reconnect with the basic Jewish values of justice and human rights. And more than anything, I'm just happy that we are able to still have these conversations, and I think that's the most important thing. Just stay, good people around the world should stay in touch, have this conversation, join forces, and keep up the fight.
Now, I would like to use the coming few minutes remaining in our interview to speak to you about literature and translation. But I want to first ask you about the percentage among Israelis who do speak Arabic and the value of translation, whether from Farsi/Arabic to Hebrew and vice versa.
So this is probably the project closest to my heart is the translation project, because I really see it as a political activism as well. You won't believe it, but we are surrounded completely by Arabic-speaking environment. We are sitting in the heart of the Middle East. About 20% of Israel's own society is Palestinian, Arabic-speaking, and only less than 3% of Jews in Israel can speak. It's amazing. It's amazing. We can speak decent English, some other languages, Russian, exactly, and other languages, but not Arabic, which is completely insane. And there is a reason for it, because for so many years we've been led to believe that anything associated with Arabness, with the Arab identity, is evil, is worthless. It's even more. And so the erasing of this amazing culture around us, both Arabic and the Persian culture. So and when you strip a group of people of their identity and of their culture, then it's extremely dangerous, because then it becomes very easy to look at them as nothing, as dust, and then you can do anything you want to them. So enhancing the cultural backbone of our societies, of our Mizrahi societies, of the Palestinian society, that's a political project. If you have your culture behind you, then you are not a nobody. Then nobody can treat you as a nobody, and that's why for me it's so important, the project of translation.
So we're heading towards the end of this enlightening interview. I want you to end it with maybe a sentence, one in Arabic and one in Farsi. I'll let you think of what you want to choose for us, and tell us what you meant by both of these sentences.
Well, in Farsi, yeah, it's very easy. Can I instead cite a very short poem?
Of course, please.
با یک دل غمگین به جهان شادی نیست، تا یک ده ویران بود آبادی نیست، تا در همه جهان یکی زندان هست، در هیچ کجای عالم آزادی نیست. And it means that as long as there is one broken heart in the world, there is no happiness anywhere in the world. As long as there is one ruined village, there is no prosperity anywhere in the world. And as long as there is one imprisoned person in the world, there is no freedom anywhere in the world. It is amazing, and I will. So I don't know how to say all that in Arabic, but that really is the bottom line. and our liberation depends on others' liberation.
There is no better way to end this interview than this beautiful line from Persian literature. I want to thank you so much, Orly, for this interview.
Thank you very much.
I learned a lot, and I wish you all the best in the coming few destinations in Australia and in future. Thank you very much, Orly Noy, for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me, Yosef. Thank you.
That's all we have time for this week of Palestine Remembered. Thank you for joining us, and remember to be with us next week, same time. And until then, this is Nasser, Robert and Yusuf wishing you the best of time, and ma salame.